Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back 1% of the account's net revenue to the planet at no cost to you. There's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement, and there's no minimum balance required. The 1% for the Planet checking account, only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
The Bachelorette and Friends. From first love to happy ever after.
What's that?
From dating to dick pics.
Oh my. Oh no!
The Bachelorette and Friends. Oh, I love a good dick.
This podcast contains sexual references, coarse language, and adult themes from the beginning and throughout. It is not recommended for listeners under the age of 15.
Hello and welcome to The Bachelorette and Friends. I'm your host, Carla Anita Matiazzo. And today's guest is an MC, a broadcaster, a mentor, a podcaster, and a communications teacher. Welcome to the podcast, Jarrod Walsh.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here in the Ozcast Network studio, a place I'm very familiar with, and I'm not nervous about this chat, but I think it's going to be a very unique one.
Brilliant! Yay! That's good. So usually we start at first crushes. So let's start at crushes with you. Do you remember your first crush and the story around that?
Yeah, I remember a couple of my first crushes, actually. So I grew up in Tasmania, and so it was my sister. No, I'm saying...
What the fuck?
Nah, so there was a girl by the name of Kelly Fletcher, and this was like in year 6. So I thought, I'm going to impress her. And what I did was I said to a guy whose name was Michael Langdon, I said, mate, I'm going to give you 20 cents and I need you to run and I'm just going to chase you. So for some reason, I thought that was like really impressive. And I still remember it to this day. And then... in that same year, we had to do a little, like it was a talent show to the school. So I did a Taekwondo performance and demonstration with my mate. My mate's name was John MacArthur. And we went, let's do this demonstration. And then got on the bus afterwards and I'm like, did you see that? She's like, no. And my heart was broken. So that was my first Tasmanian crush. And then I moved over here to South Australia when I was in year 10, so 99. Right. And I went to the Foodland, which is on Sir Donald Bradman Drive, like it was Burbridge Road back then.
Yeah, where'd you go to high school?
St Michael's at Henley Beach. Gotcha. I saw a girl there who was working behind the counter, and I'm like, I'm in love with you. And straight away, for some reason, I just thought, I'm in love with her. And then a couple of days later, I saw her. She went to school with me. I didn't realise. So her name was Leah Williams.
I love how you're giving full names.
Full names,
yeah.
Yeah.
Full names for everybody.
And it turns out that she was like the princess of school, and she ended up going out with the footy guy and all that stuff.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Yeah, so I definitely remember all those things.
So what did you learn about those two crushes, besides it being in Tasmania and South Australia? What did you learn about yourself, about your type? Did you have one?
No, not really. And the type, I think what I learned was that they didn't give me any indication or body language to go, this is a legitimate crush. I think I'm just like, I think I've decided that I like you.
Right.
No idea why, because I'd never had a conversation with them.
Sure.
Okay, no worries. So maybe it's my crushes developed from people who didn't know I existed, which is a bit weird, but it still makes sense.
That's what crushes are all about, though, aren't they? They're usually an unrequited love that you don't really know much about. And sometimes once you get to know your crush, it's like, well, I don't think I like you very much anymore.
Do you remember that group Steps, 5, 6, 7, 8?
Yes.
So I watched them perform at the Brit Awards in 2000. So I was living in Adelaide, but I remember I flew back to Tasmania just to visit a friend.
Nice.
And I watched them perform. Now, one of the singers of Steps, there's 3 girls and 2 guys in Steps. Faye was one of the singers. She had dreadlocks, like blonde dreadlocks.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. So I fell in love with her in that performance, and I wrote her a love letter, and I didn't send it, but I recall sitting in my friend's house in Tasmania writing a love letter to Faye saying, and remember, I'm 16, writing to, hey Faye, just watch your performance. I think you're beautiful. Look, I understand that there's a difference in our age and where we live, but if you're ever in Australia, I didn't send it. But, like, what the fuck?
That's actually really cute, Jarrod.
Yeah, and she's still beautiful.
Well, I'm sure she is.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. Do you think boys these days send love letters? Because I remember getting
No, they
love
send
letters.
nudes via Snapchat and Instagram.
That's not romantic.
No, it's not romantic. Well, you could write something on your
Text
old mate.
message.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Well,
Okay,
what can I say
sure.
on this podcast?
Can you can say whatever the
Oh,
fuck
really?
you want.
Okay, I
You're
was
totally
nervous.
fine. No, you're hang on. What did I say? No. You're totally fine.
I'm concerned about that. As I'm a father, I've got 2 daughters, right?
Yes,
so
you do, yeah.
I'm concerned, and I'm kind of grateful that I have missed that cusp of where we're at now with technology, kind of like on the borderline. Like I've had Snapchat before, Instagram, all that. The thing which has kind of indicated to me I'm on the way out and on the older side of things is I don't have TikTok.
Neither do I. I can't handle it.
No, I'm not interested in it.
Too much.
Yeah.
Shit,
So, but if I was 10 years older, I'd be all over it. So, but now kids.
Yeah.
I sound like an old man, but I am. But kids now, they're all on technology.
Yeah.
Like they're doing stuff at school that we're like, hold on, this is what you do when you're 20. Like it's just, so I have this fear as a parent to go, I've got to educate my kids on stuff that I have no idea about.
But do you think it's going to swing the other way? Do you think we're going so far in one direction that your kids will be like, they will be embarrassed at how much we've shared in the public sphere on social media and they'll go the other way?
I hope so. I kind of learn from other people. So like I look at parents with kids that are older than my daughters.
Right.
And if I see like my nieces on TikTok and Snapchat at 12, I think that's too young. And I'm like, cool. So I can see that influence that it has on her. So I'm grateful that I get to see that to go, I need to make sure that my daughter's being guided away from that.
So how do you, as a parent, because I don't have kids, I used to be a teacher, so I have some understanding of, children.
Yeah.
How do you think as a parent, because I see so many parents go, oh, I'm not going to do that. And then once they become a parent, they're just like, oh, it's too hard to fight with them. I'm just going to do it. How do you stick to those boundaries?
It's hard. We find that with YouTube. So my daughter, I've got a almost 5-year-old and a 6-month-old. So my almost 5-year-old watches YouTube on TV, and now like she'll find people putting makeup on, and it's like how-to videos of how to do like life hacks and stuff. And I'm watching it, and some of the content is quite borderline.
Yes.
So I think it's about being present with what they're watching and understanding what they're watching. So if, like, we're asked, what do your kids watch on TV? We can say they watch this, but also be in a position to educate them. So, like, if we look at, my wife and I come from pretty different backgrounds of what we did growing up. I lived a pretty straight, safe childhood, teenage years. My wife partied.
Right.
And I kind of like that, because if our daughters go, I've encountered something which doesn't suit the way I grew up, but it suits the way my wife grew up, we actually have quite a balanced relationship to go, well, this is what your dad thinks, this is what I think. We've both come from different parts of experience to kind of educate you on it. And
having that balance, like you said, is really important. And I think the fact that you and your wife are supportive, what it sounds like, supportive of one another, putting your life experiences forward as a parent, as opposed to one parent going, no, this is the right way and this is the blanket, experiences that we're going to put forward.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of The Catchalorette and Friends. Make sure you follow the podcast at The Catchalorette Pod on Instagram. And if you think your love journey is worth sharing with me on the podcast, send me an email, thecatchalorettepod@gmail.com, or slide into my Instagram DMs. Oh, and don't forget to give the podcast a review and tell all your motherfucking people to listen to the show. Now let's get back to this episode.
So let's go back a little bit. So from your year 10 crush was the last crush, correct?
Yeah.
Did you have any high school relationships?
Not really. I don't reckon. You know what's...
That surprises me, Jarrod.
What are you trying to say? Are you hitting on me?
No.
Okay. Just
say, you're quite confident. I would assume that high school girls would gravitate towards that.
I wasn't confident at school. And I wouldn't say that I'm... my confidence now is because I'm comfortable within who I am.
Sure.
Which is, I think, is a very different thing from a lot of like fake confidence people put out.
Yep.
So at school, I got bullied pretty severely at school. So this was like in primary school and then into high school, moving from Tasmania to South Australia. So there's a couple of things. The incest joke I made earlier, people think that that's what you do. All you do is they're like, oh, where's your second head? Where's the scar? You can either laugh that off or go take it personally.
Sure.
I moved to South Australia on Sunday, the 2nd of Feb. Had a day off on the 3rd of Feb. My first day of school was the 4th of Feb, which was my birthday, and I knew nobody. I was a new kid at school, and I cried. It was fucked. I hated
Jarrod.
it. So then I didn't really make many close friends at school.
Sure.
But the best thing I learned was that I was at co-ed schools leading up to going to Adelaide School. Now, St Michael's at the time in year 10 was all boys.
Oh, was
So I
it?
had 1 year of all boys. In year 11, the guys lost their shit because girls came to the school. But I knew how to handle it. I didn't get all excited and have a stiffy all the time because there were bloody girls walking around, you know? So I was fine with it. Having relationships and stuff didn't happen. So my first kiss I can remember, which is very, very funny in itself, and it ties back into the Tasmanian thing.
Sure.
My first kiss was with a girl who had the same surname as me.
Oh, Jarrod. Oh, Jarrod.
Yeah. So, and that was like a weird kind of thing because...
Paint the scene for us.
Yes, okay, so the night before, I was at a party at like, I think it was an 18th, and then a girl who I thought was like keen on me, her name was Amanda, and she came up to me and said, look, I would kiss you, but I've already kissed 8 guys tonight. I'm like, okay, no worries.
Okay, sure.
I appreciate your honesty, but go get tested for something tomorrow.
Wow.
And then like a couple of years later, I ended up kissing her, but I think it was like I knew
What number were you on that night?
I think it was 17.
Okay, great, sure.
So then afterwards, I met a girl that night who was, I think, just broken up with her partner. I just hung out with her.
Right.
And it was great. But the next day, because I had no idea how to be romantic or anything, I think I'm 18 at the time, maybe 17, 18.
Sure.
So I said to my mate, look, we're going to buy her a bunch of flowers and go drop it off at her house.
Oh,
But why though? Why?
That's so nice.
So I went there and I gave her a bunch of flowers, and then she kissed me. Like on the road at, like on the Esplanade at Grange. I'm like, oh, this is just happening. What do I do now? And I think I got really awkward. I'm like, all right, have a good day. And that was it. So that was my first kiss. It wasn't romantic or anything. It was just awkward.
Oh, but that's cute though.
Yeah.
That's cute. That's all part of the first early stages of...
Well, it was funny because the first girl I kissed had the same surname as me, and then my first crush at uni, she also had the same surname as me, but different
going
spelling.
on?
I don't know. It's maybe I am incest in a way.
I am.
Maybe it's a thing.
I don't reckon.
Well,
That's
I haven't
really
looked at
interesting,
my
though.
family and thought, geez, you're hot.
Yeah, good.
But yeah, it's a good thing. But
That's
I don't
really
know.
good.
Yeah.
So how did you graduate from giving that girl the first kiss you had, flowers, to adult dating? How did that...
Well, I was always too keen. Always. With any girl that I had a crush on,
Okay,
I
what
would
do you mean by too keen?
overload them with messages, MSN Messenger, and I would always be the too keen guy. So, and I put too much pressure on myself to have a girlfriend. So then...
Where did that come from, do you think?
I don't know, because I felt like I wanted to have a girlfriend. I didn't feel like I wanted to go out and experiment or party or anything. Yeah, and I didn't do that.
Right.
So, like, I don't know. So my first girlfriend was when I was 19. That I was with her for 3 years, And then I was single for 3 days, and now I'm married to the girl that I kissed.
Wow.
Yeah. So that all happened pretty crazy.
But do you think that's because you're very clear of what you want? Do you think the monogamy thing only happens, I feel, when the dude is very clear that that's what they are,
maybe.
what their intentions are?
I'm a control freak as well. Like, I'm a control freak.
Snap.
As in, like, I think if I went and partied and slept around, in my head, I'm like, oh, what if I get someone pregnant?
Sure.
Like, that's how dramatic my head went to.
Yep.
So, like, I was at the old sandbar one night, and then I remember I had no idea how to play the game or anything like that. And then, so I've dropped someone home at their house, and she's like, oh, did you want to come home with me? And my response wasn't, oh, yeah. It was like, what if your mum and dad wake up in the morning and they're in their pajamas and they see me? She's like, yeah, good point. All right, see ya. So, I think I really fucked that.
No, I don't think so. I think having that. Do you think it's a biological thing about the having to have a girlfriend? Do you think that that's a biological wiring?
Maybe. I don't know. The group of friends I was in, they all kind of started getting girlfriends.
Right.
And yeah, I think maybe it was, but how I met my girlfriend, like, at the time was also weird, because me and two other mates were singing karaoke at Largs Bay, and we used to dress up and take our clothes off and have fun, like take the piss. And we ended up one night just going, we're going to go to a studio and record a karaoke CD. And it was the worst thing ever. We had a photo shoot of all of us holding vinyl over our private parts. So we sold it.
Yeah.
We made $100.
Great.
So we got Subway afterwards.
Sure.
But that's where there was a girl there who's like, oh, you were amazing. I'm like, are you really? Because all I did was sing Sweet Caroline and took my clothes off to Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, that's what I did. And then me and my other mate, so she had a sister. So we just hung out with those two. But the thing is, the sister liked me and I liked her sister. So, and no one liked my mate. So that was a bit uncomfortable.
Sure.
And then eventually, it turns out I ended up dating the girl that I liked and that liked me, and I was with her for 3.5 years. So it just happened, yeah.
Okay, so from that relationship, you said there was 3 days in between that relationship and your now wife.
Yeah.
So what was the journey from that breakup? And then how did you start?
Yeah, so I, while I was with my ex, and there were certain parts of our relationship, probably from 3 years, where it felt comfortable. And there were moments where, there were moments through that relationship that I felt I'm comfortable, and like her parents and I had a very weird relationship.
Okay.
Like, at my 21st, I said in my speech, thank you to insert name. You've been a great supporter, great partner, and a great shag. And I said that.
Why?
And her parents didn't like that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Strong Italian family.
Yeah, well, hello. Yeah, I get it. That wouldn't have gone down well.
So they didn't want to see me. And I wrote them a letter. Because, you know, as I do, like
that's
Faye from
trend.
Steps. That's my thing.
Yeah, that's
but I wrote, I'm sorry that you're offended, but I'm not sorry that I said it. So I don't think they liked me. So a little while later, my parents separated, and they didn't let my girlfriend come to our house to come and take care of me, because I was very much focused on my parents staying together. So it was real weird.
Oh, that's hard.
So the year went on, and I have mutual friends where I met my now wife.
Yes.
And she had on her MySpace a hideous photo. And I commented on it, right? So we just started chatting. From the start, I was pretty clear that I had a girlfriend and everything.
Yeah.
So me and my mate ended up going to the Grace Emily, where they have like this Billy Bob's barbecue on Monday nights. And she was there. So she tells me when I walked out of the toilet, that's when she fell in love with me. But she doesn't know what I'd just done in the toilet. So I walk out. Anyway, we had a great night. And then it really hit home after that night, because she said to my friend, I really like Jarrod. And he's like, yeah, you know he's got a girlfriend. She's like, oh, yeah, fuck. And it reminded her. So we were friends, and it was fine. Through that whole time, I was like completely honest with my girlfriend at the time, going, hey, there's a friend, blah, blah, blah. She's like, cool. I'm like, really? Cool? So then a couple of weeks later, my now wife, Gabby, sends me a message and says, hey, my dad got me 2 tickets to the U2 concert at Amy Stadium. Do you want to come with me?
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, it's nice. And I said, well, I'll just ask my girlfriend. So I asked my girlfriend, and my girlfriend said, yeah, go for it. I'm like, again, what?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm giving you every opportunity to say don't do it. Yeah. So I went to the U2 concert.
But usually guys, sorry to interrupt there, but usually guys wouldn't even be honest with that. They wouldn't even bring that, from my experience, they wouldn't even bring that forward. They'd just make up some story. I'm going out, or I'm going to something with the guys, or they wouldn't even like share a new friendship with the opposite. Like, that's just from my experience.
Yeah. Well, it was... So I went to the concert. Nothing happened again. Nothing happened. Mm-hmm. And then there was, leading up to us getting together, I was thinking, okay, so obviously I'm starting to, I reckon, get feelings for my wife, but I'm not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. I need to make a call here on what's going on. So I was at Schoolies emceeing the Schoolies evening. And then I drove home afterwards at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I called my girlfriend and said, can you please come and see me this morning? She came around and I broke up with her. And I just said, this isn't fair on you. This isn't fair on us. I'm comfortable. It's not fair on you. You need to be happy doing what you need to do as well. And it was tough, but I was really honest with her. So then I was single for a couple of days, and then I was at the beach, so I just met up with Gabby, my wife, and I'm like, cool, I just need to be by myself for a while. And then she started talking, like, completely understanding, and then for some reason I just kissed her. And that was it.
That's it.
That's literally it.
So how do you know... Okay, so how do you know when you're officially with somebody? What is it?
Yeah.
Do you have to have that conversation of, are we exclusive? What's the conversation?
It never really got to that, because
really?
I think we both knew that we had feelings for one another.
Right.
So that was just like, we had such a good friendship that just developed into that. Maybe we did have to go, what, are you my girlfriend now?
How do you define it?
I think there was like... I understood the sensitivity and how it may have looked to my ex. So I was really careful of not going, hey, I'm with this person now. It was really tough for my mum to handle it, because a couple of weeks later I went to another concert with Gabby, and it was Robbie Williams at Amy Stadium. My mum didn't talk to Gabby. Like, I introduced Gabby to my mum, and she was so rude to her, and she regrets it to that day, because they're best friends now. They're like, you can't separate them. They've travelled overseas together. But that moment, it was difficult for mum to understand. It was difficult for some of my friends to understand, because we had mutual friends. So it's like, sometimes people go, wait, you don't understand how this decision affects us. What? But it's not your decision.
Yeah, correct.
Or someone goes, oh, I saw you're not with your girlfriend. Why didn't you tell me? Oh, I didn't realise I had to.
No, yeah.
So it's really how other people handle that stuff, which is a bit difficult.
And that's an interesting point that you make, because people, I think, get so invested in what they're used to seeing in other people's lives, especially if it's in their close circle. Really, at the end of the day, people's private relationships are exactly that. They're private. They're not really, unless there's dire straight stuff going on and there needs to be intervention from the outside when people are in destructive relationships. But on the whole, private relationships don't have anything to do with anyone but the two people in that fucking relationship.
Yeah, it's difficult at times. I've got a close group of friends in different pockets, and sometimes there's been conflict, and then you go, well, how's that going to affect the group? Like, you just think that, but then you also need to go, well, that's irrelevant. Like, sometimes things aren't ideal, but it's how you kind of deal with it, which is the way that you overcome it. But you're right, it needs to be that's a shit situation. If you think about it, like the divorce rate in Australia at the moment continues to grow. So if I've got a close group of friends that have my wife and I and 3 other couples, the statistics show soon enough that one of us will divorce soon. Yeah. So that's quite scary, because you look around and you go, which one's it going to be?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've noticed there's, so in my high school year, or whatever you want to say, my graduating year of high school, 90% of them are all married
Yeah.
with kids. And there's a small pocket of us, which I'm included in, who are not. And the whole divorce stuff has started to happen already. There's already the divorce wave going through that year.
Yeah.
And you go, fucking hell, how have we already gotten to this point?
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty concerning.
How did you know with your wife that she was the one you wanted to be with for the rest of your life? Because that's obviously the intention of marriage,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. That's also a good question. Like, I don't think I think you know, but you also have to be pretty mindful of, like, it has to have work put into it.
Yeah.
So originally, so we got engaged a year after we got together.
Sure.
So then we got married, I think 3 or 4 years after we got together.
Right.
And we've had heaps of issues. Like, we've been to counsellors, which has been amazing because a counsellor isn't specifically there to help with a crisis. It's to help you communicate better to one another and to go, here's the situation we encountered. What is this identifying? It's awesome to have a referee at times.
Yes.
So it's also like knowing, well, what... If you go, okay, so are there other people out there?
Yeah.
But are they going to, if you strip everything back, are they going to give me what my partner gives me? And when kids are involved as well, it just brings like a whole new layer to it, because I look at my 2 daughters and I go, every decision, good, bad, every conflict, every amazing time has led to this point of me having these 2 beautiful kids that I would not change for the world. So it's a nice way of just reminding you that I can't imagine having anyone else's kids. As you said, like, divorce rate is huge, but relationships need to be worked on and you need to evolve in them.
So what does that work look like, though? Is it different for every relationship?
100%. Yeah,
Okay.
it is. I think there's my wife and I sometimes have had conflict where the sentence is used like, you know, this is how I've always been, or it's not like it was 10 years ago. It can't be like that. You have to evolve, because if you think now we've got 2 kids that our love needs to translate through to them, and we're not going to have as much time together. So that means the time we have together has to be quality time. When we communicate to one another, there's going to be so many other things going on in the background. So we need to make sure that we're focused in on that. We need to make sure that we're switched on when it comes to what's happening in our lives, with what's happening with the kids, what's happening with work, finance. So it's actually making sure that you're across all of that stuff. And also, like, being comfortable enough, I think, and sometimes it's really difficult to do, just to validate your partner's feelings. So, like, to go, hey,
hard.
No matter what I think in this situation, my actions have caused you to feel like that. So I'm sorry for that. Let's discuss how we got to that point.
That's really important, because there's a very different intention to those words, rather than what I said was not intended that way.
Yeah.
So when you say that takes away the value or importance of your partner's feelings.
Yeah,
Saying,
I agree.
Oh, I said this, but I didn't intend.
Yeah,
okay.
it's your problem, friend. Look, I didn't intend that. That's your fault the way you interpret it. That's not my problem. That's your fault. And that's bullshit. Like, we got taught from our counsellor years and years ago, I statements. So it's basically saying, I feel this when you do this.
Yes.
So it's not pointing the blame and saying you are at fault here, but it's saying, hey, I feel really judged when you question me on this.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So we've associated a feeling with an action, which is great to do that.
Yeah, that's good.
But sometimes in relationships, you actually also need to have wins. Like, that's just a fact of conflict. Like, to go like, you know, what you did here just pisses me off. Yeah, sorry. Awesome. Thank you. That's all I need. Sometimes all I need is validation of my feelings.
Yeah.
I don't need a whole dialogue and conversation and let's break down because I get really detailed. I've got a really good memory and I'm really specific in the way I communicate. My wife is the opposite.
Sure.
So sometimes I have weak moments where I can see her getting all flustered. I'm like, there's my in. So now I'm going to go for the win right here.
Right.
And I tell her this. But that's my cheap shot to get a win sometimes.
Sure.
And I've said that to her. I'm like, sometimes I just need a win. If I just need you to sometimes say, I'm sorry. And I go, awesome. And that's the same as me. If I'm an asshole, sometimes I need to go, I've just been a real asshole to you and I'm sorry. And then you move on.
Yeah, and then you move on.
Yeah.
That's really important advice, I think. Because sometimes there can be when you open that door of communication and the expectation that you are going to meet each other with communication and break things down, sometimes you do just need, I actually don't want to break this down. I just want a quick, I'm sorry, and then we move on.
Yeah.
Because it can become, even though it's important to break things down sometimes, it can become really tiresome and draining.
100%.
Because you can often go over stuff that's already been gone over just because you are breaking things down and looking at past patterns of behaviour.
And that's what I'll do. I'll go, well, I understand what you mean, but back in 2004... when you didn't put the green bin out, you put the yellow bin out. When I specifically said, look at the street and all of the green bins are out, I mean, that's a real issue.
Right.
It's just like, okay, I'm sorry for 17 years ago. Oh, yeah. But I'm like, one of my biggest, like, growth areas as a human being is I have, like, unrelenting stand. I'm a clean freak, right? So I love cleaning. But my wife is... she's extremely clean, but sometimes if it's not to the way that I like it, I get frustrated. But that's a reflection of me. It's not a reflection of her.
Correct.
So you actually, in a relationship, I think you need to have as much self-awareness as possible. And I've got lots of friends who have no self-awareness and they're like, cool, that's their job, they can do that. And they do their own thing. I'm like, no, I'm a pretty sensitive guy. So self-awareness is a really important thing if you want to be able to connect with other people.
Sure. When you talk about self-awareness... do you sometimes, in relationships, there can be times where your partner is definitely holding up a mirror to you for you to see your own actions. Do you think that self-awareness plays a part in you being able to own up where you fall short, or vice versa with your wife?
I think we have a responsibility in a relationship to make each other feel good.
Yes.
But also accountable. In the best way possible. So if, like, my wife has, so she's had 2 kids, she has body issues, self-esteem wise, which she publicly talks about because she's post-pregnancy and it's really difficult for, like, I can't imagine what it would be like to be. It'd be horrible. So I've re-fallen in love with my wife twice, and that's when I've watched her give birth to our kids, because you go, fuck, it's tough being a woman. It's tough being a woman. So to see that, but if she goes, I'm feeling really down about myself, I've got 2 options. I can go, you know, if you're feeling like you need to lose some weight, then you can go for a walk. And I've said that before, right, mentally. Yeah. But I'm learning that's not what she wants to. It's my job as a husband to be able to go, I don't have to solve this. Like, I like to solve problems. It's not my job to solve this. It's my job to validate her feelings and go, if you're not feeling great about yourself, maybe, excuse me, this is my opportunity to actually work a bit harder on reminding you that you're doing a great job.
Excellent. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And it's so nice to hear a dude acknowledge the fact that women's bodies really do go through a lot. Oh man,
it's a full-on experience, and I did nothing. I did 30 seconds in the making of our kids, and that's about it.
30 seconds?
No, it's a stretch, 15. But to see what women go through, it's pretty full on.
What suggestions would you give to men out there that are about to be first-time fathers in a relationship sphere, as in how to be supportive during that time? So
I made a little show called Dadelaide, which I made this because when we went to our prenatal classes, the thing that stood out for me the most was that men experience postnatal depression almost more than women.
Oh, tell me why.
So and I reckon I experienced some of it, because when your child is born, especially with your first kid,
right,
you expect as a father to hold your kid, for them to look at you and laugh and think everything's awesome and go kick the footy and go have some fun straight away. For the first, I reckon, 6 months at least, the kid just wants to be breastfed, to be with mum, to be settled and to cry and feed. So the first child, with our eldest Rain, I didn't connect with her at all for 6 months, because I'm sitting there going,
what do I do?
She cries. I can't connect with her. I can't hold her because I can't feed her and I can't do anything. And it's a really lonely place because you go through a mental state of going, my kid does not connect with me.
Oh,
it's
shit.
horrific.
Okay.
So then once the transformation starts where they start to connect with you, it's amazing. And then mum probably feels a bit depressed because she's like, oh, why is the baby always smiling at dad? So then with our youngest, Aspen, I've got the best connection with her because I'm not working as much during the day now as I was when Rain was born.
Right.
So, and I kind of know what to expect. So the advice to dads are find a routine and things that you can do to connect. So with your partner, to be able to connect with them, just make sure they're okay. Like I was like a cheerleader when she was giving birth because it's a really scary thing because so much can go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Everything can go wrong with the kid, with the epidural, absolutely everything. But then once the baby's born, if you find something that you can do to be active. So for me, it was bath time was my thing. Mm-hmm. My wife didn't bath our kid. That's my job because she was the one that got to feed Rain. So I did that. So it's finding stuff that you can do. And I think the most important thing is just talk about it and just say, hey, I'm struggling. Like as men, we don't talk about it enough.
No.
As dads, we never talk about it. So to do that, you'd be surprised about how many people you connect with if you're just honest.
Wow. I think there's some really strong messages there, Jarrod, that I hadn't even contemplated. I didn't even think that was a thing.
Yeah, it's full on. We had a bad time with Rain because she had colic. She didn't sleep. She vomited all the time. There was a moment that I had my real kind of grounding though, where when I was really tired working at Adelaide Oval one night at a port match and I got into the elevator and there was a kid similar age to Rain, so I think a couple of months old, with tubes coming out of it, and I looked and I'm like, oh my God, my normal healthy baby is doing what a healthy baby should be doing. That's literally what's happening. And I looked at this kid going, these parents are probably wondering if their kid's going to survive. So you actually take a step back and you go, everything that's happening right now is short term and it's fine. Like if all we weren't doing was getting sleep and having to deal with a crying baby, which again is short term, then we're actually doing pretty good.
Yeah, then you're doing really well.
Yeah.
You're doing really well. How did you guys know that you wanted to have kids? Was that something that you discussed early on together, or was that an after you got married thing?
It was an after we got married thing, and I think again, like it's kind of part of like just the journey. I didn't really think too much about it.
Sure.
And Gabby was getting to a point where she's 35, so she was 30. And I think she was going, well, I'd like to have 2 kids, and literally my body clock has a timer. So I'm like, no, that's great. I understand that. There's always that fear because I'm very much a comfort zone person. So it's like I was thinking, well, yeah, we could maybe do it next year, but why? Nothing was holding me back. It was just, I'm happy with what we've got now. We've got a beautiful dog. Things are going to change then. So it was more so us going, yeah, it's part of the journey, so let's kind of do it. It was nothing that we really spoke heavily about. I think we had one conversation where Gabby's like, I want to have kids, so we need to work out whether we're doing this or not. And I think it got to a point at some stage where I think we were fighting at one point. She's like, am I going to have kids with you or not? So I know I'm fine with that. But
that's lovely that you were open, and I guess you guys were together for 4 years by the time you came to that?
We were together for about 4 or 5 years. Yeah. Yeah, and all of our close friends had kids. So we also wanted them kind of similar ages. I compared myself to my mum, my mum had me at 31 and I'm the youngest of 2. So I thought, okay, so that's kind of similar because I like the relationship that I've got with my mum at her age. So I obviously thought about it a lot in that regard.
And that's a luxurious position to be in because I'm nearly 35, no kids, never married, all that kind of stuff. And I'd like those things. So how do you think the single people in their mid-30s who what advice would you have? Jarrod? Or you probably wouldn't, because that's not your life experience, right?
It's not my life experience, but there's also a lot of stuff that I've said that we take for granted. So, the fact that we can have kids.
Correct,
I'll tell a story very soon about the night that my daughter was conceived. It's a very short story, and it's I do remember it, and I tell it. To answer your question,
Yes.
you need to find a partner.
Yeah. Do you though?
Well, not necessarily. No,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
But it's hard.
I don't know how to answer your question.
That's fair.
In
You
regards
don't
to
have
what?
to.
No, I want to try though. I have a crack at it. It's a very personal
It is.
decision that you guys will have
It
to
is,
make.
isn't it? But I think that's, the whole fact that you were open to your wife's conversation about you were already married, you were together for X number of years, but you were also younger.
I've got a mate who's my age, who's 37, that we went to school together. Mm-hmm. After I broke up with my ex, he wrote her a love letter. And he went to the movies with her, and I blasted him for him, like, what are you doing? And in hindsight, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
But he had no confidence with women.
Yeah.
He has fallen for the girl that I kissed first.
Yes.
So there's a pattern there. I mean, the only person that he hasn't kissed is me yet. And he is my age. Everyone around him has kids. His family has kids. I think he just wants a family.
Yeah, right.
And I think he would be in a position that if he met someone straight away, and a couple of days later she's like, I want to have kids, he'd go,
He'd
done,
do it.
straight away.
Yeah, right.
But there's also a difference between physically, he's fine to have kids for a lot longer than physically women are with their body clocks.
That's right. And I want to, when I have kids, I want to have, you can't control the future, but I would prefer to have a child with somebody that I know I'm going to be with for a substantial amount of time.
We had before our second child was born, my wife and I were... So Rain was 4, and my wife and I there was a moment in our life where we had to sit down and go, what are we doing in our relationship? It was pretty extreme. And from that, we had really honest conversations, which led us to we're going to try for a second baby. We didn't want to do it because we needed to. We didn't want to do it for the sake of it. We didn't want to do it because we didn't want our child to be a single child. We did it because we loved each other. Mm-hmm. So it was like the intention of doing it was for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So I think it all comes down to personal choice of what you want to do it for.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
that's
that was when we had our first kid. So I was working at Adelaide Oval, and it was at a strikers match in December. January, December. So I parked at the bottom of the north car park at Adelaide Oval, and if you get there early, you park right close to the gate, which is fantastic at the start, horrible at the finish, because I love everything about Adelaide Oval except the north car park, which is the worst car park in the world.
Right.
They've got 2 lanes to get 10,000 people out. It takes an hour to get out of the car park. So the cricket finishes, and I'm sitting at the bottom of Adelaide Oval, and I get a message from my wife, which is like, I'm ready. And she was ready to go. Her app said that she was fertilizing or ovulating or whatever it is. Fertilizing. What, you shat the bed? That's disgusting. And then I'm like, hey, I'm an hour away. She's like, you need to get here right now. And I said, I'll also be honest with you, I really want to get McDonald's on the way home. And she's like, no, you will come home right now. So I've waited for an hour, this fucking car park, man. And then I'm generous. I've let all these people in. Yeah. Got home, drove past McDonald's. And I'm like, I'd love to.
Yeah.
We went home, and then we did what we needed to do. And then I made her drive me to McDonald's, so about 1 a.m. And then the nickname for Rain, our daughter, was Chicken Nugget right until she was born. So legitimately, because when the obstetrician's like, we can date it for when she was conceived, I'm like, that's that night. That was that night at the cricket. So there it was.
Chicken Nugget.
Yeah.
That's a bit cute.
Oh, thank you.
Will you ever tell her that was her nickname?
Yeah.
Oh, she already knows that?
Yeah, we told her we called her Nugget. We haven't told her how she was born yet, but yeah, we're pretty honest with her.
Yeah, fair. That's good.
Yeah.
Do you have any parting words of wisdom for the listener, Jarrod, in regards to relationships? Maybe sustaining. You've touched on before about how counselling's important, communication's important. Do you have anything else to add to that?
I think, and what I've learned a lot, especially over the past 12 to 18 months, is being comfortable within who you are every element of who you are, like absolutely every facet of who you are. If you're going to be spending time with this person, and if you have a responsibility as a parent, so from a parent point of view, I love my daughter. She's like, I see my daughters as blank canvases, and like, it's not our job to draw for them, but it's our job to kind of make sure they draw within the lines. And sometimes they'll cross over those lines, but it's time to guide them back in. So being comfortable within who you are is a really powerful thing. And that is being comfortable enough to be vulnerable and to say, this is the real part of me. I've spent so much time in my life trying to seek approval from people that don't matter. And that approval-seeking behaviour controls you, because pretty much you live your life and make every decision based on how others are going to be affected by it. So then ultimately they control your freedom. But if you are comfortable enough to be who you are, then you are drawn to people, and people who are drawn to you are the ones that actually matter in life. That's the positivity. That's people who will give you feedback when they need to. So in relationships, I think knowing who you are and evolving is a really important thing. You can't just go, this is the way I've always been, because our needs change, human beings change, and being able to cop feedback is a big thing. Sometimes it's really difficult, like if your partner tells you, no, this is where you need to lift in our relationship, because straight away you go, oh, fuck, I thought I was doing a great job. But if it matters, you will try and give your all. So the two things are be comfortable with who you are and courageous enough to be who you are, and evolve.
Beautiful. This has been an excellent chat, Jarrod.
Thank you. Have you pressed record?
Yeah, I have.
Are you sure?
Yes, it's right.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
The Catchalorette, with friends near and far, from heartache to catfish and sex toys. The Catchalorette and friends. See you next time, if you dare.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back 1% of the account's net revenue to the planet at no cost to you. There's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement, and there's no minimum balance required. The 1% for the Planet checking account, only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.